So here on my channel, I switch smartphones often and distro hop across many different Linux distributions, typically landing on Linux Mint or Omarchy. However, I recently have been adding to those commitment issues by also hardware hopping across many different custom PCs. If you recall, I started out on my Linux journey on a Fractal Terra Jade build that was an AM4 build that then moved to an AM5 build. Then I built the larger Fractal North, which was a much more powerful PC. However, the Fractal North case took up a lot of space here on my desk, and my son recently got into PC gaming, so I decided to give him the Fractal North build. I then moved to an M2 Mac Mini for a bit, but quickly missed having the control of my software and hardware like I get with Linux in a custom PC, so I decided to yet again build another custom PC, but this time not only one that fit my desk, but also one that fit my workflow the best. I think I've nailed that here with this new setup. I was able to acquire the parts as well as build the PC and install Omarchy, get my full setup up and running in under an hour, so let's jump right into that full process. I'm headed to Micro Center to acquire the components, and you might be asking, why would you buy RAM or SSD in 2026 right now? Well, thankfully they had some really good bundle deals, and I was able to get the RAM and SSD for far cheaper than if I were to part this out. Collecting and purchasing those parts only took me about 10 minutes. For this build, I'm going all AMD with the Ryzen 7 9700X, the 9070 XT, 32GB of RAM, and 2TB of storage. Before I begin assembly, I'll head over to the Omarchy website where I can download the latest 3.5 ISO so I can flash it to a USB, and once flashed to a USB, I'll be able to install it once we have all of these components thrown together. If you're new to Omarchy, this is a good time to check out the documentation on their website as well, as Omarchy has very good documentation. It's very detailed. They even include the basics to help you get up and running. Just note that Omarchy isn't here to handhold, so it is more of an advanced distro. But while that's flashing, I'll get all my tools ready to go so we can start this build, starting with the motherboard assembly. For the motherboard, I picked up the B650i Lightning, which is a highly recommended AM5 board delivering premium features while delivering a robust power delivery system focused on high-end Ryzen processors for excellent performance without the Mini-ITX tax you typically find on smaller boards. On the rear panel, while there's only one USB-C, you have plenty of other USB-A ports, as well as your typical LAN ports, HDMI output, Wi-Fi antenna connectors, etc. Now I'll insert the Ryzen 7 9700X, which I selected because of its exceptional thermal efficiency, operating at just 65 watts to keep temperatures manageable, followed by inserting 32GB of RAM, and then the 2TB SSD. I'll need to first, of course, remove the heatsink. Once I remove the heatsink, I'll have to remove the plastic here because this will sit on top of the SSD, ensuring that it stays cool. With the SSD in place, I'll replace the heatsink. With the RAM, Ryzen CPU, and SSD now installed, it's time to move to the cooler. Now for this build, I went with the Thermalay X47 because it's ideal for the Fractal Terra Jade case, given its 47mm height leaves enough space between the fan and the side panel to prevent turbulent noise while allowing maximum room for large GPUs. And with the very simple instructions, I was able to quickly assemble the cooler. With that, the motherboard assembly is complete and highly optimized for the thermal and spatial constraints of the Fractal Terra Jade case we're about to throw it into. Now I had to purchase another Fractal Terra Jade case since I sold my first build, but this one I got open box, saving an additional $50 US. The Fractal Terra Jade stands out beyond its aesthetics due to its sandwich layout and unique sliding spine, which allows you to shift the internal midplate to prioritize space for either a massive GPU or a taller CPU cooler. This flexibility, combined with its toolless side panels and dedicated cable routing behind the power supply, makes the building process surprisingly approachable for such a small enclosure. Additionally, the fully ventilated aluminum exterior ensures that both your components pull fresh air directly from the outside, preventing the heat buildup common in other compact cases. Once all the panels have been removed, you will find the Terra accessories inside of a box within the case. This will include all of your necessary screws, etc. for your build. I'm going to remove all of the orange plastic pieces that you see under each of these screws, both on the top as well as the reverse side of the case. All of these screws will make it back onto the case. However, when I do insert the screws again, I want to make sure that it's adjusted to spine 4, as that's going to give me ample room for not only the cooler and motherboard, etc. on the one side, but the GPU assembly as well. Now this next step is totally optional, more peace of mind for myself. A bottom fan. The case, as mentioned, doesn't rely on traditional front to back airflow, but since there is space for it and I'm a fan of extra cooling, pun intended, I'll add a Noctua fan under the power supply. Keep in mind, if you add a fan intake intake or exhaust, you have to be mindful of the clearance for your PSU cables, ensuring they don't hinder the fan blades. Speaking of the PSU, let's go ahead and install the PSU next. The Corsair SF750 is the go-to for Mini-ITX boards because its 80 plus platinum efficiency ensures minimal heat waste while also remaining silent in use. For this specific build is a crucial key to ensuring a performant build. It also includes sleeved braided cables that are much more flexible in tighter cases. In building a small form factor PC like this, I cannot stress enough the importance of becoming familiar with your PSU ports and cables and preparing for the tight cable management to follow. I'll first align the PSU with the case to get an initial idea before then assembling all of the PSU cables that I'll need. Save your box as well because you'll have plenty of extra cables after. And as you can see, when I do insert the PSU, you get an idea of how little space I have between the PSU and the fan. So just again, note that I'll have to cable manage this later to ensure that all of the cables stay away from the fan. With all the PSU cables connected to the PSU, I'll screw the PSU to the case plate. In hindsight, I should have tucked at least the GPU cables behind the PSU, as this is ideal with this case, but a lesson learned in my cable management later in the video. With the PSU now mounted to the case, I'll need to mount the motherboard next. Thankfully, I still have my long screwdriver included with my Be Quiet cooler from my previous build, because otherwise these screws aren't the easiest to get to, so keep that in mind as well if you go with a smaller setup like this also. I'll connect all the PSU cables now to the motherboard, and with that out of the way, it's now time to move on to the GPU, which should really be the easiest part of all of this setup here. The RX 9070 XT Challenger is a top tier choice for this build because it offers flagship level 1440p and 4K performance with a massive 16GB of VRAM, ensuring that I won't hit memory bottlenecks with modern titles. The 290mm triple fan design fits perfectly within the Fractal Terra's dimensions while utilizing a high density heatsink to maintain low temperatures even in a compact small form factor environment. The 9070 easily clicks into place. There's two hand screws that keep the GPU secured to the case. Once the GPU is secure, I'll connect the PSU cables at the top of the GPU, and with that, the build is nearly complete. Now for my least favorite part of this build, the much needed cable management, but I won't bore you with the process. While I may adjust all of this later to make it even cleaner, I'll at least tidy this all up a bit so to give you an idea of what this looks like once it's cable managed, and here you go. The main goal of cable management here, especially with the bottom fan, is to ensure there's enough clearance for all of the fans, fan blades, etc. so air can flow freely throughout this case without hiccups. Now again, I may clean all of this up a bit more later in the future, but I have to say in just about 10 minutes I did a pretty good job. Though the GPU PSU cables could have easily been tucked behind the PSU, I routed them on the side and it works for now. The cables aren't pressing up against the sides of the case either, so now it's time to fully seal the case and the build is complete. Don't forget with this case specifically, the ports on the back will be upside down. It's weird, I know, but that's how it is. With the build complete, I'll set up my Samsung 32-inch G8 OLED monitor, throw down a desk mat, Keychron K3HE keyboard, a mouse, a few of my phones to help flatten the mat, the new PC off to the top right here, my Trashcan Mac Pro to the top left, can't forget my Android and Tux figures, and some nice Lego bamboo to tie it all together. With the new PC booted up and BIOS updated, it's time to install Omarchy. Installing Omarchy is super easy and insanely fast. You will be prompted to enter a username followed by a password, your full name and email address, host name, time zone, and keyboard layout. With these very few prompts, you will be prompted to confirm the field values before being prompted to confirm which drive to install Omarchy. Now remember, this will entirely wipe whichever drive you select during this install. Proceed with caution if installing on an existing drive. Make sure you back everything up prior to doing so, or use a separate new dedicated drive for Omarchy. For those new to Omarchy, Omarchy Linux is a love letter to computing, treating the operating system as a piece of high-end design where every pixel and keyboard shortcut is intentionally crafted for beauty and flow. It fosters a rapidly growing community of enthusiasts who view Linux not just as a tool, but as a medium for self-expression and technical mastery. This passion translates into a shared ecosystem where tech-forward users collaborate to push the boundaries of what a modern aesthetic desktop experience can be. Omarchy 3.5 is a powerhouse for modern tech enthusiasts, shipping with the high-performance Linux 6.19.10 kernel and seamless out-of-the-box support for the latest Panther Lake architecture. This release introduces the new Once installer for effortless local web app hosting, alongside two stunning new themes and lazy install stubs for integrated AI developer tools. Beyond the aesthetics, it packs serious utility and enhanced fuzzy-fine file transfers, and a streamlined debugging mode, making it the ultimate ready-to-work workstation for the 2026 hardware cycle. Personally, I keep going back to Omarchy because it perfectly captures that rare "it just works" feeling within the Arch ecosystem, providing a high-end curated experience that eliminates the need for endless manual ricing. Its opinionated design means I don't have to waste time configuring basic necessities like clipboard managers or aesthetic consistency. Instead, I get to start being productive the moment the install finishes. The keyboard-centric workflow feels like an extension of my own thoughts, rewarding technical mastery with a level of speed and fluid design that makes traditional mouse-driven desktops feel so slow in comparison. So while I love many Linux distributions like Linux Mint for example, I ultimately keep falling back to Omarchy because of the community and the craft. It's an OS that treats computing like an art form, making me feel part of a movement that values both deep technical power and uncompromising beauty. So in summary, it's not just an OS, it feels like a home for people who refuse to settle for a boring desktop and who truly love computers. Oh, and the best part, Omarchy installs at an absolute insane pace. I'm talking a full high-end environment ready to go in just 1 minute and 52 seconds on my new build. It's the ultimate no-wait OS that respects your time as much as it respects your craft. It's just insane to me how fast this installs. Even on older hardware, I found I can still install Omarchy in under 15 minutes. It's just very impressive. And then to see this new hardware install, it was under 2 minutes. It's just incredibly impressive. Anyways, once Omarchy is installed, I'll reboot. Once rebooted, you will be prompted to authenticate using the password you initially set up before install. You will then be greeted by a home screen where I will quickly connect to Wi-Fi via the initial prompt in the top right corner where your notifications will live. Once connected to Wi-Fi, I will install the Omarchy updates, also prompted by a notification. And once updates are installed, I can make one other adjustment before I am fully productive and can jump into OBS Studio here in a second, so just bear with me. I want to adjust my monitors. To quickly scale your display in Omarchy, you can adjust the monitor workspace setting by changing the resolution or scaling factor, set it to 1.25 or 1.5 to make UI elements appear larger. Once you save the file, Hyperlin will hot reload your configuration instantly, reflecting the larger interface without requiring a logout or reboot. And with that, I'm pretty much all set to go. I could be productive right away, or I can tinker a little bit, which we'll do here in a second, but I just wanted to show you how quick you can be up and running and have all of the applications you need to be productive. We'll jump right into OBS here, so that way we can take a look at the overall setup. With OBS pre-installed, it's pretty nice and pretty fast to get started. So here we'll go through and customize the look. There's a ton of really great themes included with Omarchy, including a few new ones, as I mentioned, one of which I will show you here in a second, but there's plenty of themes, a theme for everyone. You can also create your own themes and customize these themes if you'd like, but right out of the box, you can select a theme and you're good to go. And while it doesn't quite match my current setup, I absolutely love the new Lumen Severance theme. It looks just incredible. I might still end up using this one. I really like the way it looks and comes together. But anyways, I'll jump right into my theme here of choice. And as you can see, going with that overall green theme. But I also wanted to mention that a lot of people always talk about Omarchy and say, oh, there's a lot of bloat. There's a lot of packages, a lot of web apps that I don't use. Well, you can quickly remove those right within the immediate UI when you jump into Omarchy. There's a handful of packages and web apps that I don't personally use either, so I'll quickly remove those. As you can see, I'm quickly removing a handful of packages. Those have already been removed. You can still see quite a few web apps throughout this menu here, and I'll easily remove those as well, just to show you how quick and easy you can remove and clean up the apps or the packages that you're not going to use. You can also install packages, and you can also install and create your own web apps very quickly, as well as key bindings, but I'll get to that maybe in another video. Just wanted to show you how quick you can clean all of this up and remove all of the unwanted web apps and packages that you feel like you're not going to need in your daily use. And as you can see, I've already done that. It took me just a few seconds here to do that. And now I have this clean menu of all of the web apps and packages that I will personally use. I'm also going to install Steam really quick, just so you can see again how quick this whole process is to get everything up and running right out of the box and be productive, but also game right away. And with Steam installed, I'm authenticated into Steam. I'll download a handful of the games I typically play, like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Cyberpunk, to see how this new build performs while gaming. I wanted to just highlight here the common theme of speed and efficiency, and just how fast I was able to get the components, build a PC, install Omarchy, and be productive in under an hour. It's really impressive. If you're curious about the cost of these components, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I was able to get many of the components on sale, so the total cost of everything was about $1,500 US, which, while still slightly above what I would have paid a few years back, if I paid full retail for everything, I would have been looking at well over $2,000 here. So now that I have the build complete and Omarchy installed, it's time to dive in and put it through my workflow. I can definitely say I really missed the Fractal Terra Jade case. It looks so good with this desk setup, and while cable managing in essentially a shoebox is never fun, this was surprisingly easy this time around, and I'm pretty impressed with what I could pack into this case. I'm hopeful the cooler here holds up and delivers the cool performance given the size of the GPU, but coupled with the efficiency of the Ryzen 7 9700X, I think it'll do just fine. I'm excited to see if the RX 9070 XT stays cool under the pressure of 4K gaming and heavy video edits. Switching from a 5070 Ti to an all AMD build finally kills the driver headaches, delivering a seamless native Linux compatibility that I've been after. And if you're curious on the overall performance, I actually edited this entire video with Kdenlive on this machine, which Kdenlive comes included with Omarchy, which is really nice. I really enjoy using Kdenlive, and it works really well, scrubs really fast. As you can see here, I was able to edit this in full 4K 30 FPS with no stutters or lag or issues. I also jumped into Steam and played a few games after wrapping up this edit. Started with Red Dead, then jumped into Cyberpunk to see how the back-to-back gameplay would go, and it went very well. Not only did it stay silent, the build stayed cool throughout all of the gameplay. I will of course have to stress test it a bit more over time and do a follow-up video, but so far so good. Even continuing to play while OBS ran in the background and I still had my Kdenlive open to finish my edit and render the video, it still stayed very cool. So after a few days of using this new setup, I'm very happy with this build. Let me know your thoughts, of course, in the comments down below. Do you have any questions? Let's discuss. And as always, thank you for watching. Take care and stay safe.